I will do this video in part for my immediate relatives who fortunately did not do what I did. They kept their nose off the page, and so approaching the age of 60 years, they kept their 20/20 vision. I know this because I asked them to check, and that's positive refractive state. So they had little or no interest in any of this. My sister basically says, nearsightedness, that's medical. Let medical take care of it. You don't want to get involved. And the medical people say, well, it's not my responsibility. It's what the kid is doing is the problem. The result is that nobody attempts to solve any problem at all. It's all pushed somewhere else. The parents doing it, let them fix nearsightedness. And then you go to the optometrist that says, you're 20/40 or 20/50. They say it's heredity, you can't prevent it, and you can't get out of 20/40. So they give you a -2. That's why I check my own refractive state, because I don't trust that. The way they measure, they freeze your eye with a drug, which makes it totally wrong, measure you and say, oh, you're -2 diopters. I go home, I check my Snellen, I'm passing the DMV, and I'm saying, what the hell's going on here? Which is why I must measure using my Snellen, clear flashes, whatever. So I no longer trust any measurement made by a medical doctor or an optometrist because I can't, which is why I use a Snellen. Now let's back this up. I was in college, engineering. I assumed that all eyes at birth were highly sophisticated systems controlling their refractive state to the accommodation. It's a control system. So the counter argument against me is to say that all eyes at birth are badly adjusted cameras, and that's exactly how they think. They say positive refractive state, your eyes are terribly defective, and they're not. And that's where the scientific technical argument begins. So basically, it's our eyes, sophisticated system controlling themselves to accommodation signal, or there's something else other than that. Now, my book, I describe the behavior of all eyes that way. I don't use defect. I don't measure any defect. I measure my refractive state, either plus or minus. So the whole concept was, when I went and talked with Raphaelson, was to understand it that way. And this means basically a young man who has 20/20 because he checked himself and measured. So he enters a submarine, and after a long period of time doing this, his refractive states of the completely normal eye change from plus, or 0 diopters, to -3/4 diopters. Okay, then he goes to the doctors and he says, your eyes are terribly defective. It's your bad heredity. When in fact, it's the normal eye controlling itself to the accommodation signal. It's a control system, not defective. And then it depends on who makes the measurements. If I make the measurements, I'll plan to get out of it, but only if they previously had verified 20/20. And this is true of your college students, 16 years old, and you're doing this, the average down rate is a ½ diopter per year. So it's not becoming defective. It's controlling its refractive state to the average of accommodation. How do I know this? The primate data. It's in my book. The equation is in my book also, but nobody understands science and equations. So that was my plan in talking with Raphaelson. I had no idea what else goes on in optometry. It was an educated student of science, engineer, when he previously had 20/20 positive refractive state. After a long period of this time, changed his refractive state from plus 20/20, great 20/20, to 20/50. Then I got Raphaelson's book, and he did a lot of exploratory ideas. He couldn't help the public, so I give him great credit for that. In fact, no optometrist really can help you until you do it yourself. And I was not aware, I was partly aware of this problem, and I described myself, and in fact blame myself. It's teaching children to read under the age of 5 years old. No one in medicine will address that issue. It's like, well, why? It's not our fault. It's up to the parents to take care of it. They know how to take care of it. And then I wind up with this picture of 5, 4, 3 kids. My kid's going to be a genius. He's going to teach him reading at the age of 3 or 4. And so what are the kids doing? It's this. Raphaelson did a study. He found that when they put kids in a reading environment, they went and did that. Chinese, same thing. Don't we have any understanding at all? That's where the problem is. Because the eye is a control system. When you do that to it, will change its refractive state from plus to minus. Look at the primate data. Get rid of the camera idea of an eye. As long as you cling to that idea, you'll totally not understand anything. But equally so, it was the submariner. Previous 2020 went down. And I don't say become defective. I say negative refractive state for the completely normal eye. Until you can think that way, you're going to be stuck. Even I remember doing that. It's almost instinctive with 3 or 4 years old that when you do that to them, they do that. That's where your 6th and 7th diopter kid eventually comes from. It's very slow going down, but once you go below -1 diopter, you're probably finished. You're not going to be able to get out of it in a reasonable period of time. That's why I say prevention only. Now, as you remember, I showed how to use a Snellen and a cell phone. No, it's not exact. It's not perfect. But at least you have measurement control before you go for another exam. Optometrists call it screening. I call it self-checking to avoid re-entering myopia. But I think the real problem is we don't talk to our children. Once you let a kid do that, it creates 2 problems. One, they call it nearsightedness, negative refractive state of the completely normal eye. Keep repeating that. And wandering eye, so-called. What happens when a kid does that? Now the 2 eyes can't focus anything. So the brain cuts one eye loose. I have a little bit of that. I'll try and demonstrate it. Watch my right eye. Now let's see. I can do it with the left. But the point is, that would not have happened if I didn't do this. But I did a lot of that, and you get the wandering eye business. My immediate relatives didn't do that, at least. But there's still the same issue is measurement. Respecting all eyes that's dynamic and start using that type of language. And for parents, they got to stop their kids from doing that. Don't teach them to read under the age of 5, but if you do, eyes no closer than 15 inches. For the primate eyes living in the wild, their refraction is +1 or +2. All have 20/20. Medical people call that eye defective because its refractive state is not exactly 0. They got camera in their head so badly that you can't talk rationally with them, because they immediately force the eye to be defective because they pose a camera image on the completely normal eye, and any logical discussion ends at that point. So that is what I learned from Raphaelson. Rupa Wong keeps her kids' eyes 15, 20 inches. That's -2 diopters. They'll never enter. If they measured the refractive state, it'd be probably +1 diopter, which is perfect. Long as they do that, they'll keep their 20/20 through graduate school or even PhD. So that is what Raphaelson taught me. He also taught me the totally impossibility of helping the public. And I mean, that's the doctor, the father has 20/20. And so Raphaelson talks about the plus. Sorry to say, stupid printer doesn't understand the eye's behavior as a dynamic system. And whose job is it to teach the printer that prevention is necessary by measuring yourself and going from 20/50 to 20/20? Even here, there's a little flexibility. The DMV standard is 20/40, not 20/20. So add your own commentary, but that's what Raphaelson really taught me. The bug is impossible. You can't help a person if you're not optometrist. You have to figure out how to do it yourself and do what I'm doing. If you can't figure that out, you're not going to make it. Add your own commentary.